Welcome into this holy space, a space where over 40 years ago in this very room, Roger and Carol were married, and now we honor Carol's life. So join with me in a welcome, and please stand. The love of God, the wisdom of Jesus, and the comfort of the Holy Spirit be with you all. I invite you now to find that hymnal, to sing hymn 30, All Things Bright and Beautiful. You will sing about every flower and every bird, and keep the memory of Carol near as you think of her love of nature and the whooping crane. You may be seated as the family comes forward to read.
Hi, my name is Elena. I'm Carol's niece, and one thing Carol loved is poetry. Poetry is very important, and she loved to read poetry to us, and one of the poems she loved to read to her children and nieces and nephews was Robert Frost. So unfortunately, her sister Deb and her niece Julie could not be here today, but they did record a Robert Frost poem The title's read by her sister Deb, and the poem is read by niece Julie. I'm going to play it from my phone.
Road Not Taken by Robert Frost.
Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
Friends, today we tell a story, the story of Carol Popelka. Not just a story of a life, but a story of her love. Love for Roger, her children, her grandchildren, her love for the world and all its creatures, from gardens to whooping cranes. It was a love that showed up again and again and again. A love that, as the Apostle Paul said, never failed. Carol Beth Coupal Popelka was born into a family where love had a particular shape. Her parents were New England through and through, reserved, proper, committed to education and to family. Her father, a Harvard-educated city planner, and her mother believed in the constancy of love. And not a fragile love, but a fierce love. The kind of love that boycotted injustice when Carol's mother refused to sit idly by when the daughters of the American Revolution refused to admit a black singer. Carol learned that kind of love and carried on her mother's fierce commitment to justice and civic engagement. This was the kind of love that stood up when the world sat down. That love, the love of Grammy and Grandpa Coupal, took root in Carol. It was passed down generation to generation like a quiet, unspoken inheritance. And so even then, in early days of Carol's life, before the chapters of her life had fully unfolded, it was clear that her love would be patient. Carol's love would be kind and never fail. At Luther College, Carol found language. She studied English, not just as a subject, but as a way of living. For words mattered. Precision mattered. Because beauty mattered. And she would carry that gift into the world as a reader, a thinker, a grant writer whose words didn't need editing when she submitted articles to the local newspaper here in La Crosse. She was a person who knew the right word at the right time. She could shape the moment. She loved Shakespeare. She loved Toni Morrison, Dylan Thomas. She loved language because language at its best is how love is shared. And through every sentence, every poetic turn of phrase, you will find a poem she wrote in the community room later on your tables. Through those poetic moments, yes, even in the moments where she corrected Roger, John, and Dan's grammar. Roger may have gotten her a shirt that said, "I'm silently correcting your grammar." Through each careful choice of words, she conveyed a love for sharing the nuances about this world and its beauty. For Carol's love was careful and caring. It was patient and kind. Carol's love never failed. Then, one afternoon in early September of 1981, a new chapter, the next chapter of Carol's life opened. It was on the tennis courts of Logan High School, where she came to help the girls hit balls for tennis, for she had played tennis at Luther. Roger was assigned to take photos for the Logan yearbook. While she was reluctant to be photographed, Roger noticed her. And then later that week, there was a gathering for teachers in a park in Onalaska, and Carol noticed Roger. After the park that evening, they went to a bar on the north side, and there was a game of pool where Carol claimed she did not know how to play. And then, Roger says, she sank ball after ball after ball. 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row. "A hustler," Roger exclaimed. And perhaps she was swift, for she had already begun to capture his attention. Next, the two had dinner at Carol's house and then the Renaissance Festival. Then one day, Carol's parents noticed that her mood was jubilant, though she had been down as she searched for a job. For you know what? Carol had just met Roger. Carol's sisters soon declared, "Don't let this one go," and the relationship was off. Then 2 months later, a flight to Washington, D.C. at Christmas to see Carol's parents, and Roger was there to ask for her hand. Her father asked when they retired to the den, "Do you really know what you're asking?" Roger assured him that he did know. And then on the plane ride back to Chicago was the proposal. Roger figured, well, she can't escape midair. And then a wedding in this very room, over 40 years ago, exactly in the place where you sit. She had planned the wedding's details, for she could organize life effortlessly. Yet when the chosen hotel for the reception went belly up and a Shriners convention was in town, there was no room in the inn for the new couple. Carol, calm, capable, and organized as always, moved the entire celebration, remembering every detail, every word of her vow, and she did this all while working full-time at Western Technical College. Now Roger, he forgot his vows. The teachers at Logan, I'm told one is here, they would always remember it, and they would remind him of it for years to come. And there was the honeymoon next, at the Coupal family cabin at the tree farm. It wasn't your typical honeymoon. Instead, Roger trimmed Christmas trees during the day, proving his work ethic to his new parents. The evenings, they were filled with cribbage and gin and tonics. Carol's love was a love that laughed, a love that adapted, a love that endured. Carol's love never failed. Next came John, and then Dan, and Carol became what many know her to be, a loving mother, a reader of bedtime stories to Dan and John, a tradition that would continue with her grandchildren, Genevieve and Delphine. She was a teacher at the kitchen table, a curator of children's books. Even now, I'm told 400 books are in the house that she and Roger built to remind her of her New England roots. She was a woman who made sure her children not only read, but loved reading. John remembers reading the Boxcar Children as dinner was prepared, or she read to him Le Petit Prince. This mom taught John and Dan to cook, even providing a detailed cookbook for each. She taught them to think. She taught them to care. And she showed up. She was at cross-country matches with a stopwatch in hand. She recorded the times of heats and then placed them on the refrigerator to celebrate the new personal records of her boys. She believed in her boys deeply, consistently. And her love was patient, as the Apostle Paul said, and she might have needed it for these rambunctious boys, I'm told. When the family spent a vacation at the cabin, at the tree farm, the cousins ran around with Cool Whip containers containing tens of grasshoppers. When the adults became exhausted, while the kids' energy was boundless, the adults encouraged the cousins to retire to the tent, to read quietly, "Where's Waldo?" And as the zipper closed to the tent, a ruckus rose to the heavens as the cousins struggled to open the tent and exit, for the 8th plague, the plague of grasshoppers, had descended, but it was not at the hands of the Egyptians, it was at the hands of Dan. And Carol, she sighed that heavy sigh of patience, for her love was patient. Or John's smoke bomb set off inside the house, or the firecrackers in the porta potty, or boys scouring for golf balls behind the golf course, only to sell them back to players. And through it all, that deep sigh, that steady presence, that knowing yet patient love. Because real love, the kind of love that raises children, is not abstract. It is lived daily in the messy and the ordinary moments. But Carol's love did not stop at her sons. It stretched outward to Elizabeth and to Juliana, to nieces who became daughters, to grandnieces who became granddaughters. She showed up, flying halfway around the world for a difficult pregnancy, sitting at a hospital bedside for days. It was just what she did, Elizabeth said. She showed up again and again. She showed up for family. She showed up for community. She showed up for children in elementary classrooms to teach them about the migration of the whooping cranes. She showed up in those classrooms with Roger dressed in a white sheet, holding a beak, pecking at her, imitating the whooping cranes. And in these moments, the children and Carol laughed with the delight of the joy of nature, and children shared. She showed up for boards and organizations that quietly held our community together. She showed up in this very church, singing in the choir for over 4 decades, as John and Dan ran through the pipes of the organ. We still wonder if the lock on the organ is because of these two. She showed up in the life of this place, because love is not just a feeling. Love is presence. Love is showing up. And then her love came for Genevieve and Delphine, her granddaughters. Books read to John and Dan were now read to Genevieve and Delphine. Trips across the ocean to watch these little ones grow. In one itinerary of Carol's travels to Bath in the United Kingdom, she wrote all of the majestic sights she had seen, and tucked inside that itinerary was a line: "Put Genevieve to bed," smiley face. For tucking her granddaughters in bed was as noble as seeing the castle where the legends of King Arthur began. Because for Carol, the smallest moments were as sacred as the grandest journeys. Because that is what love does. It shows up. For Carol's love was patient. It was kind. It never failed. Even as illness came and as words slipped away, love remained. When other words left her, Carol would still sing in this very room the words of hymns that played around her. Her love of music came forth. Her caregiver noticed that she still loved her walks in nature. The caregiver even said, "I had to struggle to keep up with her. You would just see her light up when she went out into the wide world." For she loved to walk among the trees and in the garden. And in those final days, the roles, they reversed. Those she cared for her. The house filled with stories of her life and love, and I was honored to sit there one evening with them. Even when you were in the room with Carol, you could hear the laughter going from room to room as stories were told. Because that is what Carol built. And so we come at last to the road, Robert Frost's road, the road that diverged in the yellow wood, and Carol took it. Not the easy road, not the self-serving road, but the road of showing up, the road of sacrifice for family, the road of steady, enduring love. It is the road less traveled, and it makes all the difference. For Carol's love never failed, and her love, it lives on in each of you. When you show up, when you love, it is in you when you choose the road less traveled. Amen.
Thank you, choir. That was beautiful. It's a hard one to follow. Well, I was going through some cards that Carol saved. She didn't save many, but this was a Mother's Day card, and I wondered why she had saved it, but I'd like to read it to you. I don't know how I ended up with such a talented, beautiful, sexy woman as you. Am I a stud or what? Happy Mother's Day. But I think the reason she kept the card is what I wrote underneath. I said, unfortunately, the words stud and dud are a way too similar in structure. Just an observation, you know. Much love and thanks for all you do for me and the boys through the many years. I still remember the first Mother's Day. Can't believe that we're parents. I need a little drink after that. Yes. Yes was the answer. A simple three-letter word that would change my life and Carol's life completely. I'd planned to head for Austin, Texas after the 1981 school year ended at Logan High School, and Carol was looking for a job in Minneapolis. Without that simple yes, our lives may have taken a very different journey, a different road traveled. At the age of 34, my wandering days ended with that yes, and a wonderful journey with a greater purpose was in store for me. Did not know how lucky and thankful I would be to live and grow with Carol, raise a family, and be welcomed into the wonderful crazy Coupal clan. Carol helped shape me into a better person, or at least she tried to. It was a chance meeting and a whirlwind affair. Carol was between jobs and she was helping the tennis coach, so you're going to hear this story again. She was asked by Jerry Horostowski to hit tennis balls with his girls, with his tennis team. And since I volunteered to take pictures for the yearbook that year, I was to do a group picture. I was assigned to do that, and Jerry wanted Carol in the picture, and she did not want to be in the picture at all. I tried to convince her, but I don't remember if I was successful. Probably wasn't. I'll have to go back at the yearbook and take a look and see if her picture's with the team or not. A week passed, and Logan High School had the famous faculty picnic out in the park in Onalaska. Jerry brought Carol, since she had taught 2 years at Logan, and she knew all the faculty very well. And I think Jerry kind of had a little crush on her. Kind of thought of her as her brother, though, and I knew that was kind of a failing for him. After the pizza picnic, a small group of us did decide to go to the north side of bar, as you mentioned, and we did play pool, and she did sink one ball after another, and I did call her a hustler. It might have ended there, but we all went home, and out of the blue, a week later or so, Carol called me, and she invited me to dinner at her place. And after that, the rest was history. For the next 3 months, we saw a lot of each other, awful lot of each other. In October, I took Carol to meet my parents, and they were quite pleased and really surprised because I'd been dating another off and on for years. So I didn't tell her I was bringing her up, and They just about fell over. In December, we were flying to Washington, D.C. to meet her family at Christmas. And on that flight out, like was mentioned, I asked her to marry me. And fortunately, she said yes. Otherwise, it would have been a very long flight. I didn't have a ring yet. I hadn't planned that far ahead, but that's in my nature. In Washington, D.C., I had to talk with her dad, and Joseph. He said, you know, Carol can be rather strong-willed at times. Are you sure you know what you're doing? And I said, yes, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking forward to the challenge. And a challenge I think the greater challenge was for Carol, to be honest with you. And when we got back to La Crosse, and the first thing that Carol did was drag me up to that choir loft in the back there after she found out that I could sing. And I've been up there now for 45 years. So it's a good journey. I'm glad she got me back into singing, because after Vietnam and getting back and going back to school and so forth, I just hadn't sung. I did sing a lot in high school and so forth. But Carol got me back into that, and I'm glad she did. That was one thing I was thankful for. I believe Judy Huddycutt was the director at that time, 45 years ago, and we've gone through many directors, and we've got a wonderful director up there right now. A past choir member of our choir said, and I think this is in a card that she sent me, said, you know, Carol and I used to talk about our husbands up in choir. And I'm sure that all the good things that were discussed were about us. I know they were all positive, right? So on July 17th, as mentioned in '82, Carol and I got married in the church, and it was 102 degrees outside that day. And the air conditioning in this place, there was a different air conditioner type setup, and it was awful. It was very, very hot. So that's why I kind of forgot my vows. I mean, I was toast that day. I also remember that date because Carol had the date inscribed on the inside of my ring, so I'd never forget the date. I think she knew me too well. We soon had John and Daniel, and Carol worked full-time. And over the years, she had 4 different employers. How she was able to do this and find the energy to raise be a full-time mom, I'll never know. But she managed. She had a lot of energy and a lot of love. I've always thought of myself as a conservationist, but Carol always took things to the next level. Carol would get me up at 4:30 in the morning to see the first flight of the reintroduction of the whooping crane over in Necedah. So we'd had the flyover, make it in time before they would circle the marsh. The cranes, let's see, where am I? They would fly them around with an ultralight, and so Carol was pretty inspired. So she soon volunteered to be a whooping crane education coordinator. She mailed educational materials throughout the United States and did that all by herself for that organization. Carol also made presentations to the elementary classes, and of course, I had to dress up in that silly costume, and she got to present, and I got to say nothing. She was very good at what she did. Carol was always the first to welcome new neighbors to our subdivision. She would bake bread, provide a list, and she kept a list of all the new neighbors that would come to the neighborhood, and then she would share that with them. And Carol always looked forward to an excuse to have neighbors and friends on the deck. And so we'd always have a glass of wine, of course. And sometimes we would even do lobster feeds on certain occasions. Tactful. Well, Carol was always cheerful, kind, honest, and tactful. Not long ago, I was preparing for a shower, and I jokingly asked, "Do you still get excited when I strip down for a shower?" Can I say that here? And, "Oh," she said, "that horse left the barn a long time ago." So you see, true love never dies. So I will miss Carol and that wonderful smile, but she is still with us. I want to publicly acknowledge and thank Carol's main caregivers over the past year or so. They improved Carol's quality of life and provided wonderful care. Shannon Rutz of Cooley Region Care, Lynn Sherm, Joan Budnick of Bright Star, and the Gunderson Hospice people, the nurses and staff. They did a wonderful job. I don't know how I could have done it without those people. Finally, thank you all for honoring Carol with your presence here today. Perhaps it says something about how Carol impacted others' lives.
I struggled to find the words to really say how do you condense one woman's life, especially your mother's, into a few short paragraphs. But did the best I could, and I thought, what better way to tell you about who Mom was than by thanking her for the gifts that she passed along to me and Dan. So, Mom, thank you for my deep and abiding love of music. When I was in the womb, I heard the booming chords of that very organ right up top there, and I heard the harmonies of the choirs singing all the old hymns from the Pilgrim hymnal. All the old tunes, all the old harmonies became a part of who I am. The knowledge of and structure of music, of harmony, all from before I was even born. And sitting in the loft as a kid, playing behind the shutters in back where I shouldn't have been, climbing amongst the organ pipes, listening to Tom play oratorios, Bach, Handel, Beethoven, some of the finest pieces of music really shaped me. And as I went on to sing in the church choir up on the steps here, or in, vocal jazz in high school, or show choir, or the Statesman or the Lacrosse Boy Choir, music has always been such a huge part of all of our lives in the Popelka family. So thank you for that golden thread of music that has been ever present, entwined, running through our lives, Mom. Thank you for the gift of close family, of safety, of roots, and of place. For the knowledge that we were loved unconditionally, even amidst argument or disagreement. Thank you for the tight bonds of aunts and uncles who feel as close as parents, cousins who are like siblings, and nieces who we love as our own. Family has been our rock and our anchor through hard times. We are so blessed. Mom was selfless in everything she did. She was never materialistic, always frugal, clipping coupons, whether it was that or, just buying few luxuries for herself, saving money, and putting it all towards one end goal, which was just to have enough, have a comfortable house where our beloved family could gather, and make sure that Dan and I got a good education, put food on the table, and make sure that we could get together every single year. And we did that. And only now as an adult can I fully realize all the sacrifices that it took on her part, on all of my parents' parts, and aunts and uncles and grandparents to make that happen, and how very rare that is, and how very blessed and fortunate we were to be in a family like this that prioritizes 100% family and closeness and love. She taught me that it is certainly not the things that we own that make us wealthy. It's not the money. It's the family, and we are very rich indeed. Mom, thank you for the gift of the love of words, love of knowledge, of curiosity, for reading to me as a toddler, or for asking me to read to you, after I'd come home from school in the kitchen. Encourage me to read some simple books when I was... Hey, thank you for correcting my grammar. Thank you for correcting my diction. Thank you for proofreading my school assignments. I might have found it annoying at the time, but I am deeply grateful for the ability to think, to communicate clearly, directly, eloquently, elegantly. Again, our family has valued these things, and I'm so grateful to Mother for making sure those gifts are passed on. Thank you for your gifts of empathy and compassion, Mom. The desire to lift up our neighbors, to fight for education, for health care, for equality for all, to reject bigotry, to reject racism, misogyny, greed, for teaching us to think of others and the greater good before we think of ourselves, to be good and respectful stewards of our planet, the only one we have, to be kind to creatures great and small. For all these gifts, lessons, and sacrifices, and the myriad I'm sure I've neglected to mention, I am eternally grateful. Mom, I love you so much and miss you deeply, but you remain with me here and here. May all the kindness, love, and empathy that Dan and I can now put out into the world be reflections, translations, and amplifications of the love that you taught us. Finally, thank you for once again, and as always, leading the way for us Popelka boys. For whatever adventure comes after this brief, precious time on earth, I'm thankful that you'll be there to take our hands and show us the way. I love you so much, Mom.
All right, let's move this thing for the tall people. Hi, everybody.
Well, thanks everybody so much for coming out today, taking the time. I know my mom would have been so happy and thrilled to see everyone here, because I know that every one of you in this room meant a great deal to her in her life, and that you all had some form of a positive impact on her life. I'm certainly grateful, as is my whole family, for all of the love and support that we've received these past couple of months and throughout our whole lives from all of you. We're very grateful, and it means so much to all of us. Also want to quickly thank First Congregational Church for all of the love and support you have all shown us throughout the many years that we've been coming here. We grew up here with the music and running around as kids, and it's been amazing place to come for services every Sunday. Thank you, Laura, of course, for everything that you've done, organization, coming to visit us in our home, and for all the beautiful words and everything that you've done. Thank you very much. We appreciate you very much. Also for Nancy Allen and all of the previous choir directors, for all the music, all the members throughout the years. I know my mom had many wonderful years of singing and being, community with all of you, and something that she held very dear for the 50 or so years that she'd been coming here. As we've all mentioned, some of our earliest and fondest memories are running around in the choir loft as kids, getting into some things we might not have been supposed to be getting into, but it's what we did. Yeah, and but yeah, we're very grateful for everything that the church has given to us over the years. So thank you all very much. But like my brother said and my dad, it's before we were even born, we were surrounded by music, and at home and here in church, listening to the organ and all the singing, all of the wonderful music this church and the choirs brought to us every Sunday. And I think in large part it shaped who we are as the musicians and really the people that we are to this day, at least for myself, for sure. It's a pretty amazing gift to have had that growing up, something I'll forever be grateful for. So, I've been thinking a long time about things I could say and write about my mom for the service today, but it occurred to me that, if I wanted to say all the things that we all wanted to say about her and all the amazing, wonderful qualities and who she was and is as a person, I'd probably be up here all day long talking to you, telling stories. It's pretty difficult to sum a lifetime's worth of memories and sentiment, about such an amazing person, and to keep it short, but hopefully I'm able to do it to the best of my ability here. Anyway, I think that anyone who actually knew my mom and knew who she was as a person, which I'm assuming is pretty much everyone here today, knows exactly what kind of a person she was, and just how wonderful, kind, genuine, and compassionate, patient, and selfless she was. Really, the thing that stands out most to me, that tells you about who she was to the core, was pretty much every decision that she made in her life was not for her own self-interests, but for the interests of others, and especially for her family. Nothing in her life was more important to her than her family and her friends. And nothing made her more happy than when we'd get together every year with our family out in Maine or up north at White Lake, northern Wisconsin, visiting our grandparents, our aunts and uncles and cousins, and going on all sorts of fun adventures together. Some of my favorite memories growing up are driving up to Maine every summer to do all of that. Take a couple days, 2.5 or so days of driving in our little minivan, would hop in, and pretty soon me and my brother would be punching, yelling, kicking, screaming, pulling each other's hair, fighting with each other like we did, for a couple of days. And boy, how my mom and dad, were able to put up with us kids doing that every summer is beyond me, Don't know how, I still don't know how they do it to this day. But those memories are easily some of my fondest and favorite growing up, like learning how to play cribbage, my grandfather's lap, running around Jonesport and out at camp, out in the woods, swimming in the pond and exploring. And we all were so unbelievably lucky and blessed to have grown up in a family where my whole family made it a priority to have that time and these experiences, and where there was so much just real joy and happiness and unconditional love for one another all the time. Not many people are blessed and fortunate to grow up in knowing that kind of love, and it's something for which I'm infinitely grateful. Every decision that my mom made was geared around exactly that, though. Everything she did in her life was for her family, and she sacrificed so much to ensure that we could have one of the most amazing childhoods I can possibly imagine. And she did it with such grace, and she didn't really even have to think about it. It was just something that came naturally to her as a person and as a mother, just because that's who she was to the core. One of the things that stands out most to me, though, was her level of involvement in so many things in her community and in her life. She was so busy all the time with board meetings, choir practice, attending the many sports or school-related events that John and I were involved in. Volunteer work, my many years of scouting endeavors that took place in this very church as well. It's amazing she had any time for herself in any of that. She invested so much of her time and energy in activities that John and I were involved in. It was a constant presence of support through all of them. She'd always show up to my track and cross-country meets with such enthusiasm and excitement, and was a driving factor in wanting to see us succeed. And looking back at it, I think that, she was one of the main reasons that I wanted to improve and get better at anything that I did in my life. Whether it was in school or sports or just becoming a better person in general, I don't think I knew it at the time, but I think I just wanted to make her proud of the son that I was becoming and to show her that I cared about my success as much as she did. And she did. She would always be out there every time cheering us on, telling us how proud she was of our achievements and of us just being us, No matter the outcome of any race or competition or whatever it was that we were doing in life, it's just another example of the unconditional love and support that she always showed to us, no matter what. She was always there through every endeavor, every phase of life, throughout our whole lives. She just really genuinely cared in every aspect of her life and the lives of others. And she just cared and would always be there for others. I learned how to be a better person because of it. And because of so many other values that she instilled and or passed along to me by her throughout my life and the rest of my family. But through all of her involvement with our activities and lives, she was just so smart and well organized and on top of everything that the little time she did have for herself, she was able to squeeze in some of the many hobbies and activities that she enjoyed, such as reading, playing many different board games with friends and family, gardening, traveling, going on trips with very good friends, playing and singing music, bird watching, poetry, watching Brewers games, and the list just goes on and on. But her main thing was just wanting to spend quality time with her many friends and her family. She just got so much enjoyment out of life and what it had to offer. And it was really the simple things in life that she got the most enjoyment out of. And in the process of doing all of these things that she loved to do, and without really even trying, she had this unique and natural ability to just make such a positive impact on the lives of those around her. And that was her true gift, I think. It's just making the world around her a better place as she went, and doing it with such grace and without asking or expecting anything or much in return. And she did it no matter how tough it could be. Sometimes, she had her struggles in life, but it could be tough, I'm sure, a lot of the time, but she'd never let you know it. She'd always smile, look at you and tell you something nice, something positive, find a way to lift your spirits with her kindness and her love. And as we go on through this crazy life that we live, I just find myself feeling more and more grateful for the life that I have. And I owe so much of that to my mother and to my dad as well, of course. He made lots of sacrifices himself, so a lot of credit to that guy there for sure. That, you all made for this family and for us. And moving forward, I feel like the best way to honor her life and her memory and her legacy is to simply do what she did best, which is to show kindness to others, to be there for others, show love and empathy, and just be a good person and lead with love. I feel like I've always tried to do that the best that I can to my ability in my life. It's easy to get caught up and forget these simple things that make all the difference in making the world a better place around you as you go. But it's what she would have wanted, and it's my intention to keep her memory alive by being the best version of myself as I possibly can, and I hope that we can all do the same thing in her memory as well. I'm going to wrap it up here, but in closing, just wanted to say thank you all again for coming, for listening, taking the time today, and also being such good friends to my mother. I know that your love and friendship toward her meant the world to her, so thank you very much for your kindness and love for her as well. And I just wanted to read a poem that was written by my grandfather. We got a common theme here going today, a lot of poetry. But this is one that my grandfather wrote about 1970 or so. It's about camp, which is the cabin out in Jonesport that would go to every summer growing up as kids for many years. And also her and her siblings would grow up to going out every summer for many years. It's the cabin that my grandfather built. That was a tree farm. It had a beautiful pond and big trees, white pines around it with swings that would go and play on and just go run around and explore growing up. And it's one of those special places that kind of formed who we are and just, as a family, and lots of good memories there. So this is a poem by Joseph Coupal. It's called Closing Camp. Late August air hangs heavy over yellowing fields. Summer holds her breath, waiting for fall's first sign. It's time to close the camp again. Sad time. Time to remember summer's joys while readying for winter's onslaught soon to come. Remember all the joy of opening camp last spring? April buds about to burst the brook bank full. The phoebe's nest on the window's ledge, already full of tiny eggs, the promise of more springs to come. Each shutter now carefully nailed in place, remembering the cool pond in hot July, and moonbeams through the birches, shared with family, shared with friends. It's over now. We must be on our way. The last board goes into place, the camp's secure, ready for the blanket of snow, the still biting cold of January, and I can't help but wonder as I work, when I close camp for the last time, will there be a Phoebe waiting for me in the spring?
Good afternoon. I guess I should probably get a little closer. Let me know if you can not hear me. Thank you. The tech people. Good afternoon. I'm Jennifer Dustin, Carol's sister. Carol and I were the middle two of 4 siblings, with older sister Deborah and younger brother Jonathan. Like many New England families, we had a camp. You've heard about camp. In our case, it was a log cabin in the Maine woods with neither indoor plumbing nor electricity. We didn't know at the time, but camp would become a touchstone in our lives. Camp was the place where we learned not to be afraid of the woods, where we learned to swim, play cribbage, marvel at the night sky, catch frogs and fireflies, and learn the importance of emergency rations on a hike. When our parents bought a little spit of land on the coast of Maine, our horizons broadened to include the magic of the tides, the endless hunt for the perfect piece of sea glass, watching in awe as our neighbor pulled his lobster traps, and at the end of the day, sunburned and sand encrusted, rinsing off under a watering can. So of course, it's no surprise that Carol became not just an ardent nature lover, but actively engaged in conservation efforts here in Wisconsin. She was an advocate, a board member, an educator, and a volunteer. Indeed, it was she who taught me about Operation Migration and the reintroduction of whooping cranes at the Necedah Wildlife Refuge. We were also a family of readers, nurtured by our mother with weekly trips to the public library. We would each select the maximum number of books allowed and bring them home like found treasure. Each of us had our own favorite reading spots. Carol and I used to climb the maple tree in our backyard where the branches conveniently converged to create a sky-high reading loft. And of course, we thought we were fooling our parents when at night we buried under the covers with a flashlight and our latest book. As a result of all this reading, both my sisters, Carol and Deb, became wonderful writers and poets, not to mention the absolute best sources for book recommendations. Carol, however, honed this skill further, along with our brother Jonathan, into wit and wordplay. In other words, it took only one pun and they were off to the races. It was nothing short of virtuosic. Now, I don't know whether it's nature or nurture, but all you need is about 30 seconds in a room with Carol's sons, John and Dan, before the puns and jokes are flying at you a mile a minute. No surprise, our home was also filled with music. We had an old upright piano, and I remember our dad playing tunes by ear from the big band era. And it was Dad who taught Carol and Deb how to sing harmony in a nearly nightly ritual of singing while doing the dishes. Old-time tunes like Shine On Harvest Moon and You Are My Sunshine. Carol also played the piano and, as many of you know, had a beautiful soprano voice, which she shared with family and community throughout her life. As one would expect, our sibling lives diverged as we got older and pursued endeavors which would define us as adults to the wider world. Carol, the most constant of us, found her heart and home here in La Crosse. We siblings were at this point spread across the country and caught up in busy lives, building careers, starting families, trying to fit everything into 24-hour days. And yet, in 2002, when our mother proposed hosting a family reunion that summer in Maine, no one hesitated. Despite work obligations, school, scheduling challenges, and travel logistics, we showed up. And to this day, we still show up. They say we choose our friends, not our family. I would say we chose our family. These annual gatherings gave us an opportunity to relive and share childhood memories. They also provided an opportunity for the next generation of children, nieces, and nephews to share in those experiences and to see their parents, aunts, and uncles in, well, let's just say, a new light. Themed dinners and murder mystery nights added to the hijinks, usually reducing us to tears. And Carol. Carol was always in 100%. Her depiction of Downton Abbey's Dowager Countess for one of our mystery nights would have made Dame Maggie Smith proud. Carol definitely played a leading role in nurturing and carrying on our family's traditions and leaving a legacy for her children, her nieces and nephews, and her grandnieces. Carol embodied loyalty and love of family beyond anything else. She showed up whenever and wherever she was needed, unconditionally. At the end of her life, Carol was surrounded by poetry, music, birds outside her window, and by the family she loved. Her spirit lives on in these gifts, and if you're lucky enough to see the migrating cranes, think of Carol. They are, after all, Carol's cranes.
Hi, I'm John Coupal, Carol's brother. As the youngest of four and the only boy, Carol may have told you that I was a little spoiled, but that's not true. Well, since Carol was unfailingly honest, maybe it was a little true. Honesty was one of the characteristics of Carol that I appreciated so much. Even when we were growing up in our adult lives, when the four of us were spread throughout the country, Wisconsin, Maine, Bend, Oregon, California, as everybody has said already, Carol was always there, always ready to be there. When Elena was born, Carol and Roger came out to California. Carol was an immediate help to us. As my wife Kathy reminded me, Carol didn't even ask what she could do to help. She intuitively knew what needed to be done. When Kathy got our first break to get out of the house just to go to the grocery store, she came back to see the house all organized and clean. When she asked Carol, "How do you do this?" Carol simply said, "You just do it." Apparently, the marketing people at Nike overheard her and stole her saying, but I guess we're just gonna let that one lie. While Carol was helping in the house with Elena, Roger took one look at some of the overgrown shrubs and weeds in our backyard, and with a glint in his eye said, "I can fix that." Sure enough, I think he was the only gardener in our neighborhood in California who did not speak Spanish. I'm sure you will all agree, if you knew Carol at all, she was very compassionate and kind. Well, except when we were playing cribbage in one of our infamous cribbage tournaments at our family reunions. Then she could be ruthless and trash talk with the best of us. Speaking of family reunions, those were the highlight of the year, as you've already heard, for all of us. They were legendary, included themed dinners such as the Donner Party Cafe and the Italian Job. These dinners were followed by games of charades and mafia, if you know, you know, and included much laughter. To this day, there remain many inside jokes. If you want to make any of us laugh, just say Engelbert Humperdinck. Finally, I'd like to end with this story. Up in the cabin in Maine, which you've heard about, for years, we had a giant inner tube in the shed. It must have been from a tractor or something, it was massive, that we would drag down to the pond and play on when we were just kids. Many years later, when we were middle-aged adults, but apparently no more mature, we thought it would be a great idea to take that same oversized inner tube down to the pond and see if we could stand on it. Needless to say, it was a failed effort. And not just because we were all so much bigger than 20 years earlier, but because we were all laughing so hard. Carol, I missed your laugh, your compassion, your wit, and all that you brought to our family. We love you.
Thank you all for bearing with us. I'm the last one, I swear. It's a testament to Carol how much we want to share our memories of her, and thank you all for sharing in them with us. I'm Elizabeth, Carol's niece. Thank you for being here to celebrate today the life of such an amazing person. It has been my privilege to have Carol in my life for the past 43 years, very nearly to the day. We met when I was 25 days old at her wedding. And I am fortunate enough to have had her as a maternal figure for much of that time, but in particular since my children were born. She helped me navigate the challenges of early marriage and early parenthood, sharing her guidance, patience, and support. And my daughters have had the very great fortune to call her their Grammy C, knowing that she would be there whenever we were in need. My sister Jules and cousins Elena and Adam will attest to the same. It didn't matter we weren't her kids. She was there for us, unconditionally. She and Raj gave two exhausted parents an entire night of childcare to sleep when our babies were small, learning their routine, giving us peace of mind. She sat by my hospital bed during pregnancy complications, ferociously advocating for me with doctors. She even came to stay with us when we had to move to an unfamiliar town with a 6-week-old baby in a postpartum haze. And she listened and loved. And she did all of those things that you all know she was wonderful at. She made us feel safe and secure and like everything was going to be all right. Roger asked me to share some of my memories of her later years and her grandparenting years. But as you can see, I'm going to have a hard time doing too much more of that without getting tearful. So I'm going to take a slightly different approach. You see, in those years, we became each other's confidants of a sort. So rather than sharing specific memories, I actually want to explain Carol's retirement era through the thoughts that she shared with me during that time. Like all of us, she wondered occasionally about missed opportunities or tasks done right. But in the end, it was a constant, quiet sense of gratitude with which she approached each day. She had lived an incredibly full life, full of family and friends, learning, sport, travel, cribbage, laughter. She knew it, and she gave thanks for it, in her words and in her deeds. And we all, as her friends and family, were the beneficiaries of that grace and that gratitude. As I said, I struggled to put my own words of remembrance together in a way I could get through without tears, so I'm going to lean a bit heavily on some poetry, surprise, surprise, a poet she loved, to explain the richness of Carol's life and the thankfulness that I know she felt for the people and experiences in it. Robert Frost, who we've already heard a bit of today, probably both my own mother's and Carol's favorite poet, wrote a poem about a life well lived and about looking back at the end of that life and appreciating all of the amazing memories and feeling like you've accomplished something meaningful and satisfying and important. And I think that's really the sentiment that permeated Carol's later years. She had raised two fantastic sons, had a beautiful partnership with Roger. She had traveled the world, learned new languages. She'd had a meaningful career bringing education to those in need, fighting for equality and justice in her community, and making her corner of the planet a beautiful place with a protected wilderness. And as an added bonus, she'd helped us with the early challenges of raising our babies and had experienced the joys of grandparenthood, for which I know she was and for which I will always be enormously grateful. So much of the time I spent with her in her retirement years was spent reflecting on this beautiful life she'd led, and so I'd like to share with you that sense of satisfaction and pride and calm that she had as she approached the end of her life. This is called After Apple Picking by Robert Frost, and when I read it, consider that the apples are a metaphor for each of you and the wonderful memories that you all made with Carol. My long two-pointed ladders sticking through a tree toward heaven still, And there's a barrel that I didn't fill beside it, and there may be 2 or 3 apples on some bough. But I am done with apple picking now. Essence of winter sleep is on the night. The scent of apples, I'm drowsing off. I cannot rub the strangeness from my sight I got from looking through a pane of glass I skimmed this morning from the drinking trough and held against a world of hoary grass. It melted, and I let it fall and break. But I was well upon my way to sleep before it fell, and I could tell what form of dreaming I was about to take. Magnified apples appear and disappear, stem end and blossom end, and every fleck of russet showing clear. My instep arch not only keeps its ache, it keeps the pressure of the ladder round. I feel the ladder sway and boughs bend. And I keep hearing from the cellar bin the rumbling sound of load on load of apples coming in. For I have had too much of apple picking. I am overtired of the great harvest I myself desired. There were 10,000 fruit to touch, cherish in hand, lift down, and not let fall. For all that struck the earth, no matter if not bruised or spiked with stubble, went surely to the cider apple heap as of no worth. One can see what will trouble this sleep of mine, whatever sleep it is. Were he not gone, the woodchuck could say, whether it's like his long sleep, as I describe its coming on, or just some human sleep. The apple harvest of Carol's life, the friends, the family, the memories of summers at the tree farm and Jonesport, of her boys growing up, of family reunions, of travel with friends, of choir, of CISA, of the wildlife refuge, of cribbage and laughter and snuggling her granddaughters. She looked back on them with such joy, remembered every fleck of russet. And I think if she were here now, she would want you to know how much she cherished each of you in hand, and how special and rich you made the harvest of her life. Thank you.
I invite you to join me in a moment of thanksgiving through prayer. God of a love that never fails, we come to you with full hearts, full of the gratitude that Carol taught us to share, full of grief and remembering too. We thank you for Carol's life, for the love she lived among us, for the steady ways she shaped our world. We thank you for the children and grandchildren she loved faithfully, for the ways she showed up again and again, in meals prepared, books read, hands held, wisdom shared, and a love that did not give up. We thank you for the wideness of her heart that made room beyond what was expected. A heart that chose care, that chose commitment, that chose love without hesitation. Teach us to love as Carol did, with a wideness that surprises others. And God, we thank you for the depth of Carol's love, for it was patient and kind, steadfast and enduring. It was a love that bore all things, believed all things, hoped all things, and endured all things. And Holy One, we stand with the emptiness of loss. We ask that you would hold Roger, hold Dan and John, Elizabeth, Juliana, Eliana, Adam, her sisters and brothers, Deborah, Jennifer, and Jonathan. Hold Delphine and Genevieve. Hold all of us here who knew her and were shaped by her. And when grief feels heavy, be our strength. When silence feels loud, be our comfort. When memories rise like both gift and ache, be our peace. And remind us, O God, that a love like Carol's is not lost. It is planted. And it is rising even now in those she loved. And so we entrust Carol to you with gratitude for her life and hope for the world that she helped create. And now we pray that prayer that Carol prayed each Sunday for the last 4 decades in this room. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I invite you to stand and sing a hymn that was found in the old pilgrim hymnal that John and Carol used to sing from. Sing with me, "Be Still, My Soul." I invite you to join me as we commend Carol back to our God. Into your holy hands we commend Carol, a wife, mother, caretaker, aunt, grandmother, and friend. We do this in the sure and certain hope that she is held in your light even now. We thank you, God, for the gift of knowing Carol's love, steadfast and patient, always generous and given without hesitation. We thank you for her life and the ways she showed up again and again and again. She showed up with presence and strength and an enduring love. We thank you for the wideness of her heart that made room for family, that chose love and lived it fully. We thank you for the joy she found in her grandchildren, for the love that will continue to grow through generations. And in knowing Carol, we have known something of your love, God. And so we entrust her to you, trusting that even now she rests in your peace, and that one day we will be gathered again in your presence. Amen. I invite you to sing hymn 529 in honor of Carol, a true saint who now rests from her labors. Amen. Friends, following this gathering, you are invited to the sacred act of sharing a meal together. A meal that was shared after their wedding over 40 years ago, and again, a meal today. And it will have that Midwestern sacrament of the bars. So come, eat, and enjoy. And now, for a benediction as we honor Carol. If we speak in the many languages of humans and angels, but have not love, we are only noise. If we understand deep mysteries, but have not love, we are nothing. Carol knew God's love, not only in these four walls, but in poetry and music, in the turning of seasons, in every blade of grass and grain of sand, in the hush of a beach, the call of cranes, and the beauty of the earth. Carol's love was kind, in meals made, in stories read, at bedtime, in words carefully chosen and lovingly shared. Her love believed in people, showing up again and again, quietly doing what was needed. In Carol, faith, hope, and love remained, these three. Amen.